So, great morning, everyone. Very eager to kick off our BMG, the first of the year. I thought this topic was extremely relevant for where we are starting off. So, by raise of hands, who in here would like to have the best year of your life so far? Let's go. Everybody, Megan, I saw both your hands go up. I love it. Um, this is a very simple rubric. It's 3 steps. Now, what you'll find is that most of you actually were on this call as well, but on the 8th of December, we did a goal setting webinar. The goal setting webinar is going to help you to strategically set your book up. I don't have mine next to me. I was actually using that yesterday, but there's a video on it. If you need help, that's where we'll start, but that's going to be one of the big things. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Everybody received this document, by the way. Okay, cool. So I was looking for all these different quotes, and I saw one from Nido Qubein. If you don't know who Nido Qubein is, he is the president of High Point University, which is the school that I graduated from. So when I saw this quote from him, I said, I've got to use this one. Nido's an incredible guy. Foreigner, came over off a ship, had nothing to his name, started selling phone books, made a name for himself. Now the dude's worth like $10 billion. No joke. Look him up. Wanted to share this quote. Your present circumstances don't determine where you can go. They merely determine where you start. So again, I share that because everybody's going to be at a different starting point. Everybody on here has different goals, different aspirations, perfectly fine. And again, guys, please bear with me. I may lose my voice. I'm just barely hanging on. So before we dive in, I want to do a visualization technique with everybody. Now, Megan, you are not driving, are you?
No,
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay, good. All right. So if you can do this, everybody, we're going to do this together. Feel free to turn your screen off if you would like to. But I do recommend that everybody closes their eyes for this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do Hucko to start. So again, that's going to sit up nice and straight. You want to relax your arms at both sides, head up straight, fidget around a little bit, get comfortable. All right. Now let's close our eyes together. We are going to do 3 different breaths, and then we will dive into this visualization technique. So we're going to start by taking a deep breath in through the nose. So everybody with me? In through the nose. And exhale. Now you want the inhale to be about 3 seconds. So use your mind just to count. So inhale through the nose. 1, 2, 3. And exhale out through the mouth. This should be about 5 seconds. So again, count to 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just use your mind to count 3 and 5. Next one, in through the nose. And exhale. Last one, guys. In through the nose. And exhale. Now I want you to keep your eyes closed. We just concluded 2022. I want you to think about all of the things that you are extremely proud of from the last year. What went really, really well? What do you want to capture more of? What would you leave behind? 2023 is in front of us right now. You are the author. You hold the pen. You hold the book. What is your 2023 going to look like? When we get to this time next year, what are the things that you are going to be saying that you are proud of? What things went really, really well? What things would you change? How do you feel about 2023? Whose lives have you impacted? How do you view yourself at the end of 2023? How do you look at yourself? So think about, take the next couple of seconds to think about the lifestyle. When we say the lifestyle, what does this look like? Bob and I had a great discussion about this the other day, but when you break down your time allocation, when you wake up in the morning, where do you spend your time? When you go throughout the afternoon, where are you spending your time? At the end of the day, where are you spending your time? If you were living the absolute best lifestyle that you could possibly live, what does that look and feel like? Now, whenever you've captured this, I invite you to open your eyes, take a deep breath. You'll want to capture some of these things on paper. So if you can, whether you type it out or write it out, whatever's easier or accessible, get some of these thoughts down before we move on. Just capture some of these things. What are the feelings, the thoughts? What are the things that you saw? What are the first things that came to mind? What made you smile and get really excited? What lit a fire under you? What scared you a little bit? And that's okay too. In fact, some of these goals should scare us, right? If some of them don't scare us, then they're not big enough. So take a couple more minutes just to capture some of these thoughts, feelings. Now, here's a really fascinating concept. Bob and I are doing this retreat in less than 2 weeks, which I'm thrilled for. But part of the process is doing a lot of learning beforehand, right? We want to have the top tier information to provide at the retreat. And one of those concepts is that there's a massive difference between leadership and coaching. And when you think about 2023, these goals, one of the things that's really compelling in the coaching domain is that people are able to not only embody, but they're able to see, feel, eat, sleep, and breathe that vision because they're so tied into it. Because I didn't tell you guys what your 2023 was going to look like. You came up with this. It's your vision. It drives you, and it's made for you. So capture some of these thoughts and feelings. Anybody have anything you want to share before we move into the first part? All right, great. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So I hope that was helpful. Again, guys, visualization has been around for centuries. It's not something that I can take credit for coming up with, but it's extremely effective. So I highly recommend that you use this tool in your day-to-day. And a really good example of how you can use this daily, as soon as you wake up, you can simply visualize how you want your day to look. That's a really easy way to use this, and it's extremely powerful. Okay. Let me give you the alternative. A lot of people will wake up and the first thing they do is what? They turn their alarm off. They pick their phone up. They start checking texts, emails, social media. Before you know it, you've gone down this rabbit hole of 5, 10, 15 minutes of social media. And then you've thrown your state of mind off and you've completely changed the trajectory of your day. So visualization is a really good alternative. All right. Part 1, goal book or vision book. Now, I know a lot of people in this call have a goal book or vision book. So by quick raise, or not even a raise of hand, sorry, real quick, if you can just shout out which of these do you have? I'll start with Matt. Which of these do you have, Matt? Do you have a goal book or a vision board?
I am neither.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Bob, goal book or vision board?
I have both.
Awesome. Miles, goal book or vision board?
I have both.
I love it. Meg, goal book or vision board?
I have a goal book.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So Matt, the challenge for you, my man, is I would definitely get that first part. Okay. Now let's discuss this for a quick second. I'm not going to actually take the reins over here. I'd love to hear from some of you guys, right? So instead of me talking about this, let's just go in that exact. Actually, let's do the reverse order. So we went from Matt down. Let's start with Meg. Megan, I would love to hear from you. Why do you have the goal book, or what does this do for you, or how is this helpful? Just share anything around this goal book and why it's good for you.
It kind of helps me like keep my thoughts together, kind of stay focused.
I love it. Organization, right? I mean, let's be honest. How often do we have really good ideas and we're like, oh man, that was an amazing idea, but we never write them down? And then we're like, man, what was that goal that I had talked about, 2 months ago? And you completely forget what it was. So yeah, it's an organization technique. It helps you to categorize all your information. It keeps it in one place. It's organized, easy to reference, accessible. Love it. Miles, I know that you have both of these, my man. So talk to me a little bit, and talk on both spectrums, because a vision board and a goal book, they are different things. They are. They're both very powerful. Some can be more effective for certain people. So I'd really love to hear your experience and thoughts around this.
Yeah. For the goal book, I feel like it's a method of keeping yourself honest in a way. Like you said, how many times do we have an idea or we think of a goal and we talk about it, but you don't write it down, and then either later that day or a couple days later, you pick it up or you want to think about it, but it's just gone now. So having everything clearly written down, I like to put like the time of day that I'm writing things into it as well. It's like an accountability tool in a way. And then that's countered by the vision board, which for me is it feels like more of a like a state alignment tool, something for subconscious priming. All of these things that we would like to be are visually represented on this board. And it's one of the first things I see in the morning, one of the first things I see at night. And so it's just constantly, it's flushing all of the things that you want into your brain. So it's keeping you on track subconsciously.
Woo! I don't even have my voice. I want to scream at the top of my lungs on that one. That was sexy. I love that. I want to say that again so everybody caught that. Subconscious priming. That was awesome. I love that because, yes, we use the vision board as a trigger to remind ourselves. And that's really powerful because we don't have to store mental data. It's right there. We don't have to remember it. It's already in front of us. But think of it like this. If you ever wanted to start a 2-stroke engine, for those of you that don't use stuff like this, that would be like a chainsaw, a dirt bike, some lawnmowers, right? If you ever want to start a small engine, a leaf blower, whatever it is, you got to prime it first before the engine can fully operate. So I really like that concept, Miles, because you're subconsciously priming yourself. It's almost like the same concept as that tool, right? You want to give your engine the full opportunity to operate. So I love that.
Yeah, and when we're priming ourselves with it in that sort of frequency with the regularity of it, then as things come into our life or as opportunities are presented that fall in line with one of those things, we are more prepared to then, I don't want to say seize, but take advantage of that opportunity, bring
That's
it
it.
into us because we're ready for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I love it, man. Great stuff. Bob, would love to hear your thoughts here on the goal book and vision board.
So I have both for specific reasons. The vision board usually is more static. It stays the same over the entire year. I use it. It's kind of like a strategy. But what I have pictures of what I want to become in 2023 or any year. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. But it's not only the visuals of what I want to become or what I want or the vision of what I want. Behind each picture is a feeling, is a like what will I feel when I drive the Bentley? What will I feel when I look like that image of a muscular guy. What will I feel like when I'm living in a certain place? What will I feel like when I have so much money? The feeling behind the goal is sometimes more important because then that's what I look for every day is to capture that feeling. And then I use the book just for that reason. It's more tactical. The goal book changes over time. Like, what do I have to do today to capture that feeling of success or that feeling of excitement or that feeling of love or that what do I do today? What do I do this week? And I keep that in the goal book because the book changes, but it's always going for the feeling behind what it is I want to um, achieve. So that if I achieve it, that's great. If I don't achieve it, it's still great because I'm cultivating the feelings behind the achievement.
Excellent stuff, Bob. Thank you so much. So you touched on another extremely important point, and that is that as humans, we operate on emotion. We're very emotional creatures, right? And so when we think about taking action, we have to have emotion vested in it before we take the full action, right? And part of that element is just human nature. We have the neocortex and the reptilian part of our brain. And so using these tools helps you along your process throughout the year. And so, it's really interesting because we just heard 3 different perspectives. And you guys all had really different points on how this is helpful and effective for you. At the end of the day, though, it's effective for you as long as you have a system for measurement. But it always reminds me of the Arnold Schwarzenegger quote. You could have the best boat, the best crew, the best captain in the entire ocean. But if you do not have an end destination, you are just going to float around aimlessly. And I personally believe the same is true with life. If you're unclear on that end destination, how can you ever achieve it? And Bob alluded to another really important point there. Look, it's not always about achieving that end destination, right? It's not always about getting to that finish line. It's about the process and going through it. It's about how we feel along the journey, right? And more importantly, how we feel about ourselves. The fear of criticism often stifles most people's progress and creativity. When you don't live under the fear of criticism and you're only using your own metric, measurement, and rubric, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And then life gets a little bit easier, right? So real quick, just to kind of pull this all together and summarize this, the video, and I'll pass it back to you in a sec, Bob. The goal book, you have the whole video here. So if you want to go back and check that on YouTube, you can watch through the whole thing start to finish, and that will help you to strategically set up a goal book. I've added a couple little things here and there. So if you have any questions, reach out to me and I'll absolutely help anybody with theirs. Vision board, same thing. That's going to require a little bit more in depth because there's a whole concept with that, right? So Miles, for example, when we did that, that's like the lifestyle. So anyway, Bob, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I don't think we heard from Matt. I like to hear from everybody because I learn. So I don't know if Matt has something to say about goal and vision board. Quickly.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Matt said that he didn't have one. So I'm just curious, Matt, for you, what did you take from the group? I mean, did anything stand out when people were talking about these?
Yeah, I mean, I was more or less discerning, the nuances between the two. So, for me, the vision board is more like that like spider diagram, like you were a kid, and then it branches out, and you have, okay, this is the vision, and where can I possibly go with this? The goal is, okay, how do I get to it? So it's kind of like the vision board coincides with ultimately the goals you have to set to get to that vision. So I was, learning the disparities between, and so now a better concept of, what has to occur. And, I've done it, ironically enough, I've done this mentally in my head without even having like the knowledge of the goal book or vision book, where I had a vision, I had certain things I want to do, and then at that point I would accomplish them. So indirectly I've done this, but never to the point where it was described like this and I had to give it, further thought. So
Yeah, and I think that you touched on it. The goal book is simply a book where you capture the goals that you have for the year, right? These can be personally, professionally, romantically, all the things. A vision board is a little bit more concise, right? It typically, not always, but typically it's just one thing, right? So it will be a compilation of different photos, for example, visions, but on one board. So you may take the goal book and have in-depth analysis and example and use that SMART acronym in there, where the vision board is something that is usually a trigger for you. So for example, the vision board is something we strategically set up so we see it morning and night before we go to bed and when we wake up. Because like Miles said, you want that to prime your subconscious. That's more of a subconscious approach. The goal book is more of a conscious approach, and you're constantly carrying this around with you, checking in on it. So yeah, they are, like you said, they usually stem from one another, but sometimes people get way better results with one over the other. For example, if you know you're a visual learner, a vision board's a no-brainer, right? It just breaks down differently for each person. So yeah, awesome stuff, guys. And again, we'll move to part 2. But if you have any questions on this, please reach out to me. Be more than happy to help, okay? But it's a very simple 3-step chronological order. The first part is you got to know what's important to you over this year. What do you care about for 2023? Why do you care about it? What things do you want to accomplish this year and why? That's literally what part 1 is all about. What and why. When we get to part 2, this is actually breaking this down more, right? Because often what happens is people will set out for an incredible goal, but they don't really know how to break it down. Let me give you a really clear example. And this is just on health, okay? And I'm just using random numbers. Let's say that, and again, just random example. Let's say that Matt benches 225 pounds right now.
I do.
And his goal by the end of the year is to be at 315. Okay. He's not going to be at 315 in February, right? So 315 benching, which is a 90-pound jump in 1 year, means that by December is probably where he's shooting for 315. So how does that make sense to me in breaking it down? Well, I can take that 90 figure and say, okay, I need to increase my bench by 15 pounds per quarter. Okay, well, what does that mean? Okay, so if I need to do 15 pounds each quarter, that means that I need to increase my weight by 5 pounds each month. How can I increase my weight lifting by 5 pounds each month? Well, I'll do 1.5 pounds each week. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to go up 1.5 pounds every single week. Well, Matt, why the hell is that important to you? Well, Keeg, it's important to me because I set out in my goal book that I was going to bench 315 pounds by the end of this year. Awesome. So your plan, and what you're telling me is your plan is that you see that figure is 90. You broke that into quarterly goals and then monthly goals. So you know what you're doing next week based on your goal for the year. Is that what you're telling me? Awesome job, Matt. You guys see how that process goes? You want to take the big picture, you know what and why, and then in the quarterly breakdown, you'll break this down. Now, let's take a different example. Let's say personal development. And this, again, random example. Let's just say we want to read 12 books by the end of the year. Well, easy figure. We'll read 1 book a month. Okay, great. So in my quarterly breakdown, that means that I need to read 3 books per quarter. Okay, awesome. So what books am I going to read in this quarter? Okay, great. So now I know that in month number 1, I've got to read this book. Month number 2 is this book. 3 is this book. And I already know which books they are. So are you guys starting to see how when you have that big picture, you know what it looks like, and then you funnel and break it down? It takes so much work away from you. You don't have this anxiety. You don't have this feeling of procrastination, Why? Because you already know what you're doing. You don't even have to think about it. You don't have to say, oh, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? How do I get there? You already know. It's all laid out for you. By the way, you can do all of this work in 1 or 2 days. Okay. I say 1 or 2 days because I don't recommend sitting down for 9 hours straight doing this. I recommend do it 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, take a little breather, come back, do a different part, take a little breather. But collectively, you can complete this in 1 or 2 days, which means how many hours, days, weeks, months have you just saved your headspace from having to figure this stuff out? You know, so, and by the way, I've done this, right? So if you have questions, I have a literal rubric of all of this. The goal book is done. The quarterly breakdown is done. The weekly breakdown is done. So this will come to our next part, but then you'll want to take it this far, right? You'll want to have it written out. So one thing you said before, Matt, that, and I'm not trying to beat you up, my man, but one of the most critical things ever, it must be written down. It must be written down. Here's my example. If Bob and I got into a verbal contract and we said, hey, this is the agreement, this is how it will play out, this is what we're going to do, would that hold up in court? Yes or no? No, it would not. It's not written down. There's no merit to it. My point is, when we don't write things down, they just fade away, right? You have to write them down. It's so crucial. This is not, and this isn't up for debate. This isn't my opinion. It's a non-negotiable. It must be written down, period. Okay. So the second part, you have your breakdown. Do you guys have any questions on the concept here? Okay, cool. So again, if you need to, and I by the way, Bob, Miles, I know both of you guys have these. So if you need documentation or an easy way to capture this in just one piece of paper, go back to your email and pull up the quarterly planning and the big three. That's what I do. So basically, you'll have your annual breakdown and then you put it on your quarterly planning and your big three. That's going to save you so much time because it's all on one piece of paper. Now, I don't have to go looking for all this stuff. It's right here. It's a system. It's easy. And once you get good at this, by the way, I can do my quarterly planning now in about 5 minutes. That's it. Literally 5 minutes. Some people will take them a week to plan their quarter out, 5 minutes. So then you have all this rubric. And again, you can take a focus area and break it down per quarter, right? So that goes back to that big picture goal again. I know what my big picture goal is for the year. Now, here's a focus area. So again, that example here would be, okay, cool. So that means in quarter one, I know I need to bench 15 more pounds, right? And so then when I go to my big three, I need to add 1.5 per week, which would be 5 by the end of this month. And then when I get to the end of this month and it's February, all I simply do is come back and say, hey, cool. Did I hit my 5 pounds this month? Yes or no? And if I hit it, awesome. I'm on pace. And if I didn't, I can readjust my goal. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or input on this? Because Bob, Miles, I know you guys have amazing techniques and stuff here. So if you have anything you'd like to add, I'd love to hear it. But if not, that's perfectly fine too. But any thoughts, questions?
No, you explained it very well, and this is perfect in terms of, going from the vision to the year and then to the quarters. So you explained it perfectly. So it's really not that difficult to understand. But like you said, it is discipline to do it and then to keep it and follow it, right? So the accountability is really where the magic comes in, or actually doing this and keeping this top of mind is what really makes it successful for me, right? So that's all I have to say. I think what you have here is perfect. It's just doing it and staying accountable and holding yourself disciplined to doing it. Doing the planning, that's number one, and then doing the action. So, I agree. Having it written down is very important.
Yeah. And so By the way, this isn't something that is just going to happen overnight. Like, this is a concept I learned when I was 17 years old, and it's taken me years to master. Okay. So it's not just like a snap of your fingers. Bob, 100%. The accountability piece is crucial. And so again, what I see, and I'm sure you see in your line of work, is that often it's overwhelm that gets people hindered from achieving it. It's like we see this big task at hand and we don't know how to break it down. So most times we just think it's insurmountable and we just don't take action. But the truth of the matter is, if we can break it all the way down into daily items, we don't have to think about it, which takes away the overwhelm, right? It's like we don't have to really stay accountable. I've done this for the last 30 days. It's just who I am now. So the discipline is always the most difficult part. You're 100% right there. What are some solutions for the discipline element? What are some, and anybody can just shout this out. What are some solutions for the element of discipline?
I think knowing your why makes discipline really easy to keep to. You know, why is it important for you to bench 15 more pounds in Q1? Because you have a
100%.
bigger goal. You know, that's why you have to continue progressive overload in every workout you have. And yesterday it really hurt. Oh, I don't want to do this, but I know my why. I know where I'm trying to go. Like this analogy that was like sort of waxed on earlier of the vision board acting like a compass and everything else is just the captain's log of saying, well, today there was a westbound wind and this is what the crew had to do, you know? But knowing the why is the tool to get past the discipline hurdle.
I love that. And that goes back to what Bob said earlier, right? Is that emotional buy-in. And that's why we do what we do. So if you're emotionally bought into this outcome, yeah, 100%, it becomes easier. If you know why this is important, like, why the hell did you pick that goal of benching 315 pounds? Why is that even important to you? Well, it's important to me because I want to be stronger. Okay, cool. Why do you want to be stronger? Well, I want to be stronger because I want to have a heightened element of confidence in myself. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now we're getting somewhere. Why do you want to have that increased level of confidence in yourself? Well, I realized that when I was a child, I was taken advantage of in physical environments, and I thought that I was a weak being. So being able to hit this goal and ascertain this builds confidence in myself because I know that that limiting belief isn't true, right? And so now when it's not just surface level, why is it important? Oh, well, I want to look good. Well, that's cool, but why do you want to look good? Oh, you want to look good because of that. Okay, cool. Well, why is that important to you? You got to get it to the root element. And that's where it becomes effective and long-term, right? So yeah, 100%. I love that. Another thing to think about, guys, is you also want to have a system, right? So knowing your why is huge. You also want to have a system, and that's what this does for you. It creates a system. It's easy. That's where we use that quarterly planning rubric and the big three, because they literally take 5 minutes to do. You do them, you're done. You come back at the end of the month. Awesome. The whole year you've spent 1 hour planning now, where previously you might have done this for hours and hours and hours. Another thing is you got to have people on your side, right? Like, the truth of the matter is, back to Bob's point, in order to achieve that discipline, we can't just do it by ourselves. If we go out and want to handle this all 100% on our own, we will never get to our highest heights because we have blind spots we're emotionally tied to that we cannot see unless somebody comes and shows us the way. I've lived this firsthand. I'm telling you from experience. That's why I personally have 4 coaches right now. I eat, live, breathe, sleep this stuff. I'm still not perfect. I never will be, right? It's a journey. So anyway, moving on. Any other thoughts or questions here? Okay. So again, I just wanted to reiterate, Bob's point was, look, yes, it's crucial. You want to write it down. Yes, you want to have it all mapped out. Yes, you want to have it written. But once you get beyond that point, we want to have that element of discipline for sustainability. And that's where we brought up that concept. Like Miles said, well, yeah, we want to get emotionally bought into that why. When we're really clear on our why, that's going to help, because those days that are test days where we don't want to show up, which is more than less, by the way, we know why we're showing up, right? And the emotion doesn't matter. Another factor, have a system for this. You want to create a system for you. This is one system we're talking about today. There are millions out there. Find one that works for you. This is just an example. And then again, the third one, always recommend you have someone on your team. We can't do this alone. If anybody tries to do anything alone, it's a survival mechanism. It's because somebody let you down. You don't want to get hurt. It's a limiting belief, though. It's not the most effective way. There's no argument you can pose to me that will show me otherwise. I've done research on this for 20 years. It's a fact. Okay. You got to have somebody to help you get through this stuff. And if you don't have somebody to help you get through this stuff, you are not living to your fullest potential. It's just a truth. All right. So we've got through the goal book, right? We're extremely clear on the end result, what it looks like for the next year. We've broken this down into 4 quarters, and then we've broken those quarters down into months. Now we have a really good grasp on this is what I can contribute over the next month, which helps me for my quarter, which helps me for my goal. Now that we've done all of this, the next element is, well, we want to put it into our calendar. And this takes it an element deeper. And this is really another point that Bob was talking about is like, okay, cool. Well, I get the concepts and I get the big picture, but how do I make this action items? This is how you turn it into action items. Okay. So 2 different ways to go about this, by the way. There's no right or wrong answer. Do whatever works for you. I'm going to show you both ways. I actually do both ways. Do whatever's good for you. The first way for me is I will go through on a big planner and write everything out. Now, it doesn't have to be a big calendar planner like this. You can do it on a actual planner, like one of the mobile books that you'll carry with you. I use those as well. Not as diligent on those as I should be. I actually take more notes in those than I do. I usually use that more for reflection than I do for the actual planning part. And I do the planning on the bigger calendar. Now, as you'll notice in here, there are going to be some things that you must get down first, right? So for example, you want to do your fixed, anything that's fixed. What are some examples of things that we have that are fixed in our life that we have to show up and do?
Go to
we
work.
gotta work. Exactly. Right. Work's one of them. If we don't work, we don't have money. We gotta work. So we know that that's going to be a part of our calendar and we want to map that out. Right. Let me give you a clear example. Bob came to me and said, hey, look, I don't want to work in September in 2023. And so he made an entire game plan and he has, what's your other month, Bob? Is it April?
Well, it actually was February, but I'm going to make it April or June, but 2 months out of the year.
2 months out of the year. So check this out. I want everybody to hear this. Bob has intentionally gone into his planner and planned 2 months out of the year that he's off, right? Not working. Okay. That is an example of a fixed event that he has prior planned. And by the way, does that make anybody go, holy crap, how could I do that? Does anybody think that? You're like, how could you do that? Right? Because he planned it out. He's got a plan for it.
I just say it's not that different from when I was in corporate where you get time off. By the time I left IBM, I had over 5 weeks vacation. And they almost insisted that we take it because time away from work is time where you're growing, right? And so it's so hard as an entrepreneur to build that in because you're kind of like not making money, if the concept is, when I'm not working. Well, once I put it down that I'm not working on those days, now the 10 months that I am working is really super concentrated on making enough money so I could take time off. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I have to work 24/7 12 months a year in order to maintain the lifestyle that I want. But it was so easy in corporate because you got paid time off. Well, you got to build that into your financial plan for the year and then build it into your calendar so nobody actually for coaches, nobody takes that time to see you.
Yeah.
It's just it sounds crazy, if you will, but comparing it to working somewhere else working for a corporation, you get 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks off if you've been there long enough. It's the same idea, except as entrepreneurs, you feel like, oh my God, I have to work in order to make money.
Yeah. So let me pull this back in, guys, real quick. So the point with the calendar and the action item is we want to have our fixed tasks accounted for. So we said, what are some of the fixed tasks? Well, some of the fixed tasks are work. I want to show you this really cool breakdown that somebody showed to me, Ed Milet. Okay. You may or may not love this, but take it for what it's worth. Okay. So this is 6 to 12 a.m. All right, well, 12 p.m., right? 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. You got me? So that means the first 6 hours of the day. Now check this out, because I know everybody in here knows the concept of categories, right? Lifestyle categories. So right here, health, personal development, and what's the other one? Starts with an S.
Spirituality.
Spirituality. All right. So that means that between 6 a.m. and 12 p.m., all he contributes to is health, personal development, spirituality. Nobody can get his time. Nobody at work. Doesn't matter if it's $10 million deal. Unless it's an emergency with family, something's wrong with his son or his wife. Other than that, nobody is getting this man during that time. Hyper-focused, 6 hours, health, personal development, spirituality. Okay. Now, what is one of the biggest ones that we have that people that Meg said is work, right? Our career. So let me put it to you like this. Some people might say, oh, well, only 6 hours. What am I going to get accomplished in 6 hours of the day? Well, let me put it to you like this. If you were hyper focused for 6 hours, 0 distractions, no social media, no family calling you, no friends needing you, 0 distractions, how much would you get done between 12 and 6? Now, this might sound harsh, but I get calls like 24/7, and sometimes I just cannot answer it. I love the person, and it's not because I don't care for them and love them. It's just I am hyper focused to a task at hand right now, and I have committed to getting this task done. For example, last night, and I'm saying this with love, no disrespect whatsoever, and I apologize, Matt, because I didn't call you back. Matt called me last night when I was putting this document together, and I knew that I needed to take his phone call. I wanted to talk to Matt, but I said, look, I need to get this task done. And I played it through my head really quickly. I said, what's going to happen? Matt and I are good buddies. We're going to get on the phone. We're going to catch up. Probably going to talk about New Year's, how things have gone. Probably talk about goals for this year. We're going to, we're friends. Like, that's what's going to happen. And then I'm going to start thinking about something else because Matt's going to bring something to my attention. And then by the time I get off the call, let's call it a 5, 10, 15-minute call. Now I'm thinking about this other thing Matt and I talked about. I've got to go handle this task. My internet went out. Before I know it, I come back. I wasted an hour and a half. I go to sit down to get this paperwork done. And I'm like, shoot, I don't even want to do it. It's late. I'm going to call it a night. Then I wake up the next morning and I'm frantically trying to get this paper done so I can send it out before a group in the morning, right? Anybody been there? It's not that I don't love and respect Matt. That's not the point. The point is that I had a clear, focused intention to get this done by a specific time. And because I closed those doors for that specific time, I was able to get it done. Now, I love Matt because if I don't get this document out by a certain time, Matt's going to text me and say, hey, man, you sending that document out for tomorrow? I know he's going to do it.
I actually did, which is hilarious because, it's like he said, well, see you tomorrow on BMG. It's like, well, what's the invite? So it's like, it's great that you're telling me this, but where am I going? So that was a funny thing. But the thing is, I wanted to talk to him because of what happened with obviously, the food poisoning. And I didn't know at the time that he did the same thing as well. So he's asking me, how am I doing? It's like, I got an interesting story to share with you. So it just was the fact that it just, pulling coincidental. But now I know from the other side because he texted me when I was in Publix and I didn't know what was going on, so at least now I know the heads up. But no worries, dude. I still love you too, dude.
So good stuff, Matt. Good stuff, man. Well, let me ask you this, guys. So we're looking at this, right? Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. So career, what else goes with career? What do we make when we work?
Income.
Income, that's right. So those two go together. So what are the three most important categories that we will focus on at the end of that day between 6 and 12? What are those? That's right. Family and relationships. Good job. All right. So family and relationships. Okay. Now, again, this should be uninterrupted time that we spend with these people, right? What else are we going to focus on in this? What are the other categories here? Now, Bob, I know you do these a tiny bit differently. So I'm just going to say these ones. So living environment, right? Now this is going to be little things. I'll put it to you like this. So like I have a cleaning day. Saturday is my cleaning day for the house. Some people don't have that, right? This is a way that you can contribute, or maybe if you have little kids running around, you're going to have to be cleaning every day. And so that living environment is something you might contribute to daily. What's the last one here? Excuse me.
Recreation.
That's right. That's right. So now I'm sharing this with you because you may do this completely differently, and that's perfectly fine. But have you ever actually approached a calendar this way? I think it's a cool concept, right? And again, if you want more on this, Ed Milet speaks on this. That's where I got this from. But when he really breaks it down, what we're talking about here, we're clear on our big picture goal. We know what our year is going to look like, right? We know how that's broken down into quarterly and monthly plans. Now we have actionable items. So, for example, let me give this one to you. If one of my goals for the year is to have a solid, concrete CRM for Ramble on Roasting, you like that? If my goal is to have a concrete, solid CRM for Ramble on Roasting by year's end, what's one thing I could do in Q1 for it? Well, let's break that out. Let's say Q1's how many days? 90?
Yeah.
You think you could get that completed, have your CRM done in 90 days?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the first step?
Find our CRM.
Research.
Yeah.
That's right. You got to find it. You got to figure out what's the right one. And we do that by going through the research phase. So if I know that my goal for 2023 is to have a CRM for Ramble on Roasting by the end of the year, what can I contribute to in Q1? Well, in Q1, I could probably get the whole thing done, to be honest with you. It's not a lofty goal. Okay, cool. Well, if you can get this done in 3 months, what could you do in the first month? I could do a lot of research. I could figure out what the right CRM is in month number 1. Okay, cool. So what could you do today? Well, look, after we get off this call at 10 o'clock, I could probably spend about 5 or 10 minutes just doing a little bit of research and write some of them down that I find. You guys see where I'm going with this? So then when you go back to your planner and you have your fixed events, like in my calendar, you can't get me between the 12th and the 15th of this month. Why? Bob and I are going to be in Rehoboth. That's a fixed event that's in the calendar where I'm just not going to be accessible, unless it's an emergency, of course. But the point is, it's fixed. It's in the calendar. I don't even have to think about it. I show up. It's already in my planner, right? Let me put a strategy by you really quickly. When you grew up and you were a little child and you did something wrong or you didn't know how to do something, what happened? Your parents came along and they said, no, little Johnny, you did this wrong. Hey, Megan, try it this way. They told you how to do it. And then you got into school and what happened? And you were around all these other kids and all the teachers sat up in the front of the room and they said, hey, little Johnny, here's how you do it. There's only one solution. Let's figure it out together. And then you got out of the school system and then you got into the workforce and you started working for somebody. And what did they do? They said, hey, little fella, here's how you do it. Show up and do the job. What am I telling you guys? I'm telling you that your entire lives have been structured around this exact model, but you've never literally used it for your own goals. Your whole life, this is part of your paradigm. You've lived it your whole life. So if you can just simply plug your own thoughts, feelings, and goals into this exact rubric, then guess what? That nullifies that lack of discipline, because when I show up on Thursday and I said that I was going to take a 3-mile walk around the block, it's already in my calendar. All I got to do is show up and go do it. So then it comes down to action. Now, each day when you wake up, you're not measuring, was this a good day or a bad day? You're measuring, did I put the action in or did I not? And if you put the action in, it was a good day. My example here is, if I wake up today and I lost 5 pounds, true story, and I lost 5 pounds over the last 3 days because I literally can't eat, drink. I've just been throwing up. Is it a good idea to go to the gym for 2 hours? No, it's not. But is it a good idea to stretch, monitor all my water intake, electrolytes, food, hyper focus on sleep, and go for a small walk that is timed? Yes. And guess what? I still contributed to my health 100%. What I was capable of today. Does that make sense? Your 100% capability is going to be different from day to day, but if you show up and do the work, you're always on top of it. Bob, I'm assuming that you got to jump. Okay, awesome. All right, Bob, love you. Thanks, man.
Great session. Great session.
Thank you, Bob.
Happy New Year.
You too. So, guys, to close out real quick, what thoughts, questions, comments, concerns do you guys have? And I'm gonna have to jump. I'm getting these sweats and chills back right now. So, but talk to me, guys. Where do you stand? What stands out?
Just as like a brief comment, like brushing over this entire call, one of the things I love about this so much is we know quarterly planning for businesses, right? And what is a business? It is a tool. It is a tool that looks like a group of people trying to accomplish a certain task.
That's right.
We know quarterly planning works for businesses.
Yep.
Why can't that same logic apply to a person? So, Matt, if you know your goal and you have your own alignment on your vision board and your goal book, well, in a way, your life is now the tool being used to achieve those goals and accomplish those visions. So why not break it up in the same matter of fact?
And I have, and I appreciate you saying that, Miles, because there are certain aspects of my life that I invoke in my clients. I also invoke
It's 10 o'clock.
In myself as well. So, I do ascertain that, and it does traverse, both personally and professionally. It's just a matter of being applicable. But this today was very eye-opening, and I was taking notes. I was listening to you and to Bob as well in terms of the insight there. And it's been very helpful, because already without, Keegan today, and without speaking to any of you, I started doing this, even a couple days ago. So I got a head jump on the New Year's, and I've already made changes based on this without even having the meeting today. So it was very insightful, and you are. It has to be structured, but again, with IT, the structure is already there. So that's why I would sit there, and certain things would get accomplished based on the fact that of the industry I'm in as well. But definitely makes perfect sense, and there's a cohesiveness there, Miles. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think that, excuse me, in closing, I like how you position that, Miles. I think one of the big things is that, look, today's the 3rd of the year. Okay. We have 362 days in front of us, right? Like, that's a lot of time. That is so much can get done in 362 days. Like, if you really wanted to, and you wrote a couple pages a day, you could probably write 2 books by the end of this year if you wanted to. And that's like being light on it. My point is that if you can visualize what you want, you can write it down, you can create a game plan for it, and make it so freaking easy that literally all I have to do is wake up and look at my freaking calendar and it's right there for me. What excuses do you really have, man? I mean, if you do everything in that fashion, I guarantee you, and you have an accountability system, I guarantee you'll look up at the end of the year and have it. There's not really a way around it. Like, this works.
Yeah.
I didn't invent this stuff, man. It works. I've done it personally. I've done it with other people. It works. So I'll give you one last example is like, also on the measurability side is that you can, just to Miles' point, if I want to grow a business, well, it's the same as growing my personal life. I have to have measurability, right? If you were to ask me, hey, you know, how many retreats are you running next year? I would say 4. Here's where they are. We already have the dates picked out and the places. Now, okay, cool. So what are you doing to contribute to it for Q1? Oh, I'm glad you asked. So as soon as Bob and I complete retreat number 1, we're launching another marketing campaign for the next retreat, right? It's already broken down, but now it just becomes easy. I don't have to think about anything. I just show up and do the work. And that's all that's in our control anyway. Whether you believe in God or not, I really love this statement. There's a quote. God's got a plan for you. All you have to do is show up and do the work. Like, everything's already mapped out and ahead of you. It's your job to show up and earn it each day, each and every day. You want to be a billionaire? Go be a billionaire. What do you have to do? Show up each day. You want to own 50 donut shops? Cool. How do you start? You show up each day. I love you guys. Awesome talk today. I hope this was helpful. I feel everybody's probably in a little bit of a different starting point. Use what you can from where you are, right? Present circumstances don't determine where you can go. They merely determine where you start. If you have questions, let me know. Love you guys. Let's make it a week.
I feel
See ya.
better, Keegan.
Thanks, bud. You
know,
too.
yeah, I feel better.
Thanks. See you guys.
Bye.